Holla, what's up?
What's up, Anthony Hamilton, my celebrity life with Ge Holla.
Shout out to Ge Holla, reaching 1 million listeners on his podcast, My Celebrity Life.
What's up, Ge Holla? This your boy Genuine. Shout out to you.
Come on, ladies and gentlemen. This is my celebrity show. We have the wonderful Madam Kimmy D has returned for this interview. Y'all make sure y'all tune in, y'all tap in, y'all listen because Walk With Me is a very compelling story. Kimmy D, what it do? What's going on?
Hey, nothing. It's been a minute. Life was life. That's what I want to dive a little bit more into when they get on, because it talks about being incarcerated and other harsh realities that are faced during someone's life, and it was set in Atlanta. So I'm curious to understand more of why he wanted his story to be told and why it was so important to tell the story. So for those who do not know you, can you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what your involvement is with the project, with the Walk With Me?
All right. Well, I'm Sean Holiday. I got my name I got Sean from Marshawn, because that's my first name. And I got Holiday because of the fact that I love to give people that good holiday spirit, not just on the holiday season, but every season of the year. So I chose to use that name because I stand for love, I stand for peace, and I stand for unity. I'm actually the person that this story is based off of. I went through this, I walked through this, and I prospered through it. I'm also the writer and also, co-director and also the starring role lead in my own film.
So what made you want to put this story out there, and why was it so important for you to tell your story through this character?
Well, when I was incarcerated, I had to ask God, what is it you want me to do when I get out? When you give me my second chance, I want to be ready for it, because I didn't really know what my purpose was in life. So I was trying to figure it out because I wanted to know. So I just kept, you ever heard people say, you got to call those things which be not as though they were. So I was calling around film schools and things like that, to set myself up, because I figured out this is what I wanted to do. At that time, I wasn't nowhere near. I didn't even have my sentence overturned or nothing, but I was just already putting forth my effort and my faith, because they say, you got to walk by faith and not by sight. Faith without works is dead. So I was putting my works in for my faith. And I ended up getting that sentence overturned on a Friday. That Monday morning, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was getting accepted in film school. And I took off from there, so part of my school completion was I had to write a script. And I was like, well, one of the best stories I could tell right now is the testimony and goodness, what God did for me. And I just wrote about it. And I called it Walk With Me because of the fact that you got to walk by faith and not by sight. And when you think that nobody is walking with you through your toughest times, he's always walking with you.
So you mentioned, you got your sentence overturned, and so many other people have gone through similar situations that you've gone through and might not have actually been able to get their sentence overturned. And so for those who are currently still going through their own process, whether it's incarceration, probation, or things like that, what is one piece of advice you would give them? And also, how will your story be used as encouragement for those as well?
The best advice that I can give anyone that's behind those walls, it just don't apply for the people behind the walls. It also applies for the people out here in society. And the best advice that I can always give is, in every tough time, apply yourself in. Never let it take you down and never let it define your character, because it doesn't define our character. Keep pushing, study the law, keep going, and just never give up. Understand that it's okay for a man to pray. It's okay for a man to have a spiritual side to him. It's okay to be alone sometimes, because at the end of the day, you're not alone. And even when you feel alone, that's just because God is working on some life, and he may have removed a lot of people out of your life. I advise people to don't try to catch up when they get out of there. because we already lost those years. We can't get it back. So just keep going forward day by day out here in society. And that is your own way of, living your life and go and do what you got to do, because the moment you try to catch up with the Joneses or anything, you liable to go down.
So we know that Walk With Me is out on all the streaming platforms right now. Could you tell people a little bit of a summary about what they can expect with the series?
In this series, it is basically a testimony of how faith will work for you if you work your faith. And what I mean by work your faith is that when people plant seeds, they find a good soil, they water it, they nurture their plants, they nurture their fruits, whatever it is that the planter is planting. He makes sure, and Walk With Me is all about showing how to grow in the midst of a tragedy, in the midst of happiness, in the midst of anything of that life may bring towards you, whatever way the wind may blows, because we could be smiling right now, and in the next few minutes, we could be really, really sad. So it's basically showing them how to remain who you are in every situation.
You said remain who you are in every situation. How important is that for people to remember when they're going through their trials and tribulations?
Very, very important to know that. It's very effective to have that thought process, because if you don't know who you are out here in this world, then the world will give you their own identity. And if the world give you your own identity, then you have no self-identity at all.
And so you mentioned that your faith is what carried you through your sentence. How important was your relationship with God throughout that process and where you are now in your growth?
When I didn't have nobody, can you hear me now? When I didn't have nobody, some kind of way I was still making it through when I thought I couldn't, but I kept seeing myself going forth, like making it through. It wasn't something that I could say that I was actually doing on my own. It was my faith and my belief that long as I study and show thyself approval, that I would make him smile. So I just always wanted to make him smile upon me so I can receive my blessings and do what I need to do for him. And he led me to the best places in life, which was peace. He led me to be humble, because I used to be a person that wasn't an angry person, but I had a good temper on me. And that temper, if you can't think in the midst of that temper, it will destroy you. So he gave me the serenity to be able to get that under control and pay attention to who he is and what he can do for me and what he's going to.
So prior to being incarcerated, what vision did you have of yourself? Do you think your influences played a part? I know you mentioned the temper, and I chuckle because at one point I had a temper myself. So did you foresee certain things happening in your life, or that was due to other circumstances?
I was sleeping in my cell one night, right? And I was dreaming, but I was talking to my grandmother, which was deceased. And I felt a touch. And I woke up, I thought it was my roommate, so I pushed him. Hey man, what the hell you doing touching me? It's like, but he was knocked out. He was snoring. And I'm looking like, is he playing or is he? But I know how my roommate sound when he sleep. So then I just laid back down real calmly, right? Because it started to scare me, like, dang, that was a real touch. But then once I laid down, started praying, letting my tears water, and I felt relieved. I received the message that my grandmother told me that, don't worry, you ain't gonna be in here too long. Just make sure that you're ready when you get out. That's all I remember.
Oh man, great on this beautiful Thursday, man. Thank you guys so much for having us on here. It's a blessing to just be here, man. Great day, man. Thank you so much. Well, first off, I'm a little Looney Tune myself because I'm from Miami. So, we see growing up so much and seeing so much in the hood and in so much just growing up, man. My passion was always for true stories. Uh, you know, True stories to me is how we can really get our stories out there. And when I met Sean and I read his story, it touched me like, you know what I'm saying, right to the heart, because as a filmmaker, we do get a lot of, sex stories and a lot of cheating stories now, husband and wife stuff. But to me, those are fictional stories that can happen in the neighborhood. But to meet Sean, somebody who had actually experienced what he had went through and read it, and it touched me like that true story I was looking for. I didn't hesitate. Yes. And when you say that, that's something to think about too as well, because they think that because you're behind bars that you shouldn't be incompetent. They think that you are always judged by whatever mistake that you made in life. And prison is supposed to be a reform. It's supposed to be a place that rehabilitate, to give the opportunities to, guys to have a second chance to get back out there in society and do the right thing. But prison haven't been showing up like that. These guys has not been able to do the things that they would want to do coming out of prison. Once you get something on your record, they don't give you those jobs. They don't give you those high-paying six-figure entrepreneur careers. So when you come home, it's kind of like a lot of those guys, man, be lost. I done seen some come and go. Shout out to my brother, Hype Maceo, who's been in there 20 years right now, riding out, dealing with the same thing in one of those prisons where they don't have no libraries. They're not able to read no books. They're not able to go out but like an hour out a day to maybe work out or eat. And to me, I understand that you're trying to keep things safe, but safety also comes in the way that I feel the organization is ran. And if you're going to hire these correction officers and pay them certain figures to come out there, then I think you should hire the ones that is mentally competent enough to deal with these inmates, to get them to the levels of now seeing society in a new light, so they can get them out of there and back into the world to do something good, and because we missing a lot of fathers in there. We losing a lot of uncles, a lot of brothers, a lot of black men, period, men in general. We're losing a lot of them in that system, and that system is becoming a business. So, I would advise all my black brothers, young and old, man, let's, clean ourselves up, what I'm saying, stay out of trouble, because once you're behind there, they're not trying to let us go. They're trying to make money off of us daily. So, absolutely. Because like you said, a lot of those CEOs in there, does run a prison like that. And just to say it on the record, this is not to bash any prison system nowhere, any prisons nowhere in the world, but this is just something that we have to acknowledge as people, and that we need to bring to the forefront in order to make a difference. Because, each one teach one, but also each conversation need to reach one. So we're hoping to reach somebody in a lighter mindset that can be able to make some changes for these brothers. I don't know what prison Marshawn was in, but sometimes when he tell me his story, I'm like, man, even though you was in a bad place, but at least they gave you an opportunity to bring a camera in there and do a show and I don't know if he told you guys about it, but he was able to go to put together a play in prison and get some of the inmates that was all, going through a bunch of, I let him tell a story, but they had, cases that you can't even imagine. And from his quote to me was, a lot of these guys didn't even get along with each other until he wrote something in the prison, start putting together inmates, and before you know it, you had guys, becoming friends. And sometimes that's all we need, because a lot of brothers come in there lost. And I remember back in the days when I first came in the game doing music in Miami, I was, on this, I would say, local tour thing with Trick Daddy, shout out to Trick Daddy, Trina, and back in that time it was Dwayne Wade and Udonis Haslam. And what we did, we went to the females' prisons, detention centers for the young women, and we did the same for men. And it was just sad the way we had to enter the security, you know, how tight they were with the security and stuff getting in there. And they would have all of these kids, man, gathered up into this auditorium with guards and everything at the doors. And we're talking to these kids, but you should just see their faces when they see Dwayne Wade and when they see Trick Daddy and when they see these type of people. And some of those kids, man, I've linked up with back then on MySpace, and I can tell you, I watched them grow up and become lawyers now. Some of those kids are out doing a lot of great things. A good friend of mine is a very good savvy trader, and he was a young boy that I met back then, just talking to him and inspiring him. So, but I say sometimes, let's say we never made it to that prison to talk to those kids. Who's to say they probably burnt the place down, trying just getting bored. So you never know. So what I learned from Sean is just a little bit of change sometimes can go a long way.
Just starting out with music, and then you're also the executive producer of Walk With Me. So how did you go from that into producing a film? Well, miniseries.
Oh, passion. I always had a passion for filmmaking, even when I was younger, but I just didn't have the equipment and stuff to do it. But music equipment was always accessible. You know, it was always people with guitars and drums, and, you know, everybody was rapping and singing at school. So I had no choice but to learn that skill and master that then. But my passion for movies was always there. But it wasn't until Jerry Bruckheimer, shout out to Jerry Bruckheimer, Will Smith, and Martin Lawrence coming into my neighborhood, shooting Bad Boys, and being a young kid behind the barricades looking and seeing what was going on. And when Will came over to the barricade and shook everybody's hand and said hello to everybody, and at that minute, I knew I wanted to be on the opposite side of the barricade, just put it that way. And I made it on the opposite side of that barricade.
So to give us a little bit of your filmography, like how many shows or films have you been a part of with helping to produce, or even writing?
Writing, I professionally and unprofessionally, I work both independent and majorly. Independent, I do pretty significant a lot. I write myself at night. I wrote a horror film called The Swift, which is available on my YouTube channel. And then I also wrote another movie that we're doing called Pointless, which we're shooting after Sean's movie. Now that's just my first two films other than Walk With Me that I've done independently. Now majorly, I've worked on The Lottery Ticket with Eric White. I also have a song on a Lottery Ticket soundtrack called I Make the Hood Look Good. I've worked with Marvel Studios doing some green screen special effects with a company I was contracted with. And I worked with a couple other networks and some other movies. One called The Next Hit with Noriega, shout out to Noriega and Rick Ross, Flow Rider. That was one of my first movies we did in Florida back in 2008. So I've been in it for a little while.
Okay. And so now we want to kind of bridge the gap with how were you introduced to Sean? Because I know we talked about how you got involved with the story, but how did you meet him and what made you compelled to work with him?
Well, it's funny because I met Sean doing exactly what we're doing right now. He was doing an interview about his story, and I was one of the cinematographers or videographers on the set that day. And I was videotaping him and listening to his story. And after we finished, I asked him, I said, hey, bro, you ever thought about turning your story into like a movie or something? He said, yeah, actually, I started writing one already. I just ain't have nobody to read my script. I said, well, let me check it out. You know what I'm saying? And, maybe we can talk. I didn't expect the script to be as good as it was. I mean, I knew it was, a touching story from how he explained it. But once I read it, I knew right there that this is the project that we need to do, because it touched me like Precious and kind of like a Colin Kaepernick, Black and White. I like true stories like that, and what I'm not taking nothing from any of those actors because they're all great actors and they really deliver those stories amazingly. But what I love about Sean versus with Colin Kaepernick is that they both experienced something real, that he actually relived the moment to shoot this film, which I know was very touching and a lot to relive. But I actually give him a lot of kudos for even, not only writing the script, but acting in it and it being such a real story. It really touched me beyond. Yeah.
So how was it working with people who had some experience and some that didn't have as much experience in regards to this film?
You know what? I haven't seen much of a difference, because when you cast pretty good actors and you kind of know what they can give, I think everybody can deliver pretty good. It's just when you get those actors who I guess nervous to do it and don't know what they want to do, you don't get a good performance out of it. But I haven't ran into any of those yet in my time in my filmmaking. You know, God has blessed me to get around people who really want it, who really serious about what they're doing, and they don't come to play. You know, so rather if they was professional, unprofessional, I put them all on the same level. You know, they delivered. They really did.
So being in this role, what would you say is the hardest part of your day, if any?
Editing and color grading. Yes, the editing and color grading, you know, to take some clips from, you know, clips and try to build a puzzle out of it to make people want to sit down and watch it and keep it, you know, as seamless as possible with continuity and everything in mind, you know, setting mood music and making sure that the right angles and other tricks and stuff that goes on the computer, you know, that, yeah, I think that would be the toughest. The easiest is filming, you know, filming is the easiest part. You know, you can set it like, it's like now, you can set a camera on a tripod, get you a nice good angle and, you know, action, cut action, you can get you some good clips. But now to put it together, ooh, that's the fight.
Yeah, so when I went to grad school at Florida State, my degree is in mass communication, and I actually had to do some editing. And the hours alone to literally get 30 seconds to a minute is ridiculous after all the footage.
Yes.
I just remember being, a lot. But now with AI, has AI helped you with the transition, or you still want to be hands-on with it all the time?
I haven't gotten into AI yet. I'm still a little old school with it. The most AI I've gotten into is ChatGPT, and I don't even let ChatGPT work for me. I just let it criticize my work. So I just like break this and tell me what you think. Like that's all I use it for. But I haven't really dived into the AI stuff because I think that if I see a computer, robot, we gonna definitely put them in the chokehold because you know you can't take me out of work like that. Yeah. But no, I'm still hands-on with my special effects. I went to school for green screen special effects. That's how I ended up working with Marvel doing the Eternals, doing some work on Eternals because I would do some special effects, green screen. I'm gonna shoot my own type of Superman movie one day too. Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna be a black Superman. It's gonna be a black superhero.
Yeah, let me tell you, one of my favorite movies is Hancock. I love Hancock with Will Smith. It's just something about that. I don't care superhero. I love it. It give me real life. I'm gonna write a real life superhero type of stuff. Yeah, you can have some skills. Yeah,
and you do know the story of Superman is about a black man. You know, the Kal-El being sun. He gets powered by the sun. You know what I'm saying? We know what it is. And you're a director. I know you know this. If they show in any movie where their hair is like brown or black, that represents black people.
Wow, I didn't know that. See, you taught me something new. So now I'm redoing my cat. Hey, get out. You know don't get in this movie. Oh, look, black hairs, guys.
Because you know, like when they show like the lower thirds, they show like, you know, strength and power. You know the camera angles. And a lot of people may not know that you use your storytelling is more than just the script. It's also the direction and the way that things are shot. You're shooting behind people, it's showing that it's supposed to be a secrecy. You're shooting in front of them. If the actor is taller than that person, it's showing dominance and stuff like that, as you already know.
Yeah, when you shoot from the lower angle, yep. So that's all that stuff we studied in school. I'm sure Kate know about that too. She skills over there. Yeah, but overall, you know, Walk With Me was definitely fun shooting. All the cast members, you know, shout out to Tony Alexis, a great, amazing co-star, you know, next to Sean. He actually found Tony Alexis himself, so he did a great job casting her. But yeah, it's just so good to see it come out of the computer, Kay. All the editing and the color grading, and the months of sitting there, it feels good to see it out of the computer into the homes now on Apple and Tubi, and to see the comments from the fans nationwide. That's why I do it. That's what we do it for.